Romania is starting to assemble a network of bomb shelters and bunkers on the Danube near where a drone inadvertently fell, which was directed for a port in Ukraine, inadvertently fell on the Romanian side of the border. We're talking about a Russian missile now. So here's what happened. Russian missile targeting a Ukrainian port where Russia suspects that NATO is trying to smuggle weapons across. Okay? It accidentally lands 200 meters in to Romanian territory. Romania initially denies that this happened, even though there was clear photographic evidence that it happened. Maybe they got the call from old Sleepy Joe who said, hey, we better capitalize on this because we know the war is coming to us eventually. So let's use this as an opportunity to fortify our defenses, to put our missile defense on a higher state of alert, and draw up evacuation plans for the region, which is exactly what they're doing right now. So they're starting to assemble a network of bomb shelters in this region. The mayor of one of the affected regions is also calling on the government to call for an evacuation of villages that are right across from one of these ports that was targeted. They're worried that this is going to happen again. But what is really going on here, okay? Because right now Ukraine is calling on Romania and NATO, and we got some other stuff happening in the Black Sea today that nobody is talking about, which is completely wild, all right? So here's what's probably going to happen. Ukraine is calling on Romania and NATO to utilize their missile defense to take out and neutralize the incoming Russian missiles that are in that ambiguous territory of the borderlands, where there's plausible deniability. Oh, we didn't know if it was going to come over our border like it did last time type thing. So what happens when Romania and NATO start shooting down Russian missiles that are intended for their targets inside Ukraine, effectively putting NATO at war with Russia? We already know they're at war with Russia, but de facto, or de jure, I should say, state of war with Russia. How does Russia respond? Well, immediately the tension ratchets up right away, more than it already is, in a strategic sense. That means nuclear missiles on a higher state of alert. Anytime you have a conventional interaction between, or an engagement between NATO and Russia, because the chain of events is so short from that point to nuclear Armageddon, you know immediately nuclear forces are put on a higher state of combat alert, and that red line lights up like a Christmas tree, I should say. So what is going to happen is I can foresee a situation where they're getting all the pieces where they need them. Because right now, the Ukrainians are making an advance in the southern direction. I'm sorry, guys. I got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I'm trying to paint the picture for you here of what I see. Ukraine is making an advance in the southern direction. No matter what the Russia bros say, they are continuing to chip away against those defensive lines. Russia will be left with no choice but to continue to target those supply chains that are bringing the weapons in from NATO, and they have to nip it in the bud. You have to get it at the port, because once it leaves the port and it goes into Ukraine, then it's everywhere, right? So the best way to do it is to target the ports, and that puts you very, very close to attacking NATO countries themselves. And so the more Ukraine advances, the greater the likelihood that there's going to be an accident on the border, the greater the likelihood that these missiles are going to be shot down by NATO countries. Remember, plausible deniability. We thought it was coming over here. Well, are the Russians going to accept that explanation? And now, just today, this is completely staggering to me, because the UK is saying that it is going to escort Ukrainian grain shipments. Okay, now understand, we just had a grain corridor deal fall through that Turkey was trying to facilitate, that at once Russia and Ukraine agreed to allow that grain to flow into Turkey, I believe, mostly, or maybe in some ports in Romania as well. But they were allowing that so that they could keep the global food prices down, okay? Not that they really care, because right now Zelensky is trying to take legal action against the EU because they won't accept his grain. So this whole thing makes no frickin' sense on its face anyways. So you know what this is about. This is about like bringing UK fighter jets, Typhoon fighter jets, close to the front. This is World War III. That's what this is. But they're masquerading it as this, oh, we got to protect these civilian grain ships. So that's what's going on today. That was the official announcement today that the RAF, the Royal Air Force, is going to be providing cover for these grain ships. Now, why this is important, you might think, well, why doesn't Russia just let the grain flow and, let these guys access the ports? Well, the Russians are thinking that this is where a lot of military equipment is coming in. This is where things are going in. This is where things are going out. That was the whole thing, is that they were using these humanitarian corridors to bring in weapons.